Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3.
We are using the microphones for the purpose of the people who may be watching out there. Okay, so I just wanted to let you know, first of all, welcome and thank you for coming. Rhonda Crass is one of our attorneys and a partner at Leaser Crass, and she is also acting as our search consultant in the process of finding a new superintendent. So she's going to guide tonight's meeting while I take all of your input and feedback down. But I do want you to know that this is being live streamed. So Rhonda's going to have one microphone, and then you guys will have the other, and you'll just kind of pass it around so that everybody can hear what your feedback is or what questions you might have or comments, anything like that. So, but it's always on, so you won't have to turn it off and on. So just don't rustle a lot of papers if you're the one who's holding it.
I have a microphone passer now.
A microphone passer. You're the official person. Okay. All right. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Rhonda.
Is it on? Thank you. Thank you. And no, always remember we're being live streamed, so keep that in mind as we move forward. And so I want to thank you all for coming. This is our faculty meeting where we've invited faculty members to come and participate in searching for our next superintendent. So here's kind of our agenda for this evening and how we're going to move forward. The first thing I want to do is, I know your question is, well, who is Leaser Crass? Well, we're district's council, and we have been employed by the district to assist the board in selecting your next superintendent. As many of you know, Mr. Murray resigned at the end of December, and you have Barry Edwards, who's serving as your current interim superintendent. And so as the board begins to prepare and make plans to search for the next superintendent, the board is very interested in finding out through the search consultant what you have to say. I also want to remind each and every one of you, again, we're live streaming, and before you leave, please take the time to sign in at our sheets back there. So, oh, I went the wrong way. What happened? Oh, there it is. Okay, so what is our role? We're the district council. What is our role in the search process for Bastrop ISD? First and foremost, let me say, we are not going to pick your next superintendent. That's not our job. Our job is to help facilitate the search. Our job is to help the board through a data-driven process to determine who the next leader will be. I'm going to tell you, finding the right superintendent for your district is like finding a needle in a haystack. There's one person out there that is the right leader for this. And so our job is to assist the board in finding that needle in the haystack. And how do we do that? Well, how do we do that? Well, the first thing that we are doing is, number one, we have surveys. I don't know if you've seen those or if you've been encouraged to fill out a survey. On the Bastrop ISD website is a link to a survey. And there are a lot of questions there about what's going good in Bastrop, what could be better in Bastrop, what qualities you seek. And so we're asking every key stakeholder in this district, and to me a key stakeholder are people who live here, community members, business owners, parents, teachers, employees, staff members, students, anybody that can read and take that survey. We care about what you have to say. All that data and all that information will be gathered together and presented to the Board of Trustees. And so the purpose, part of the purpose of this meeting tonight, and part of the way we help the board facilitate that particular agenda, is we hold meetings. We had a meeting with some central office staff earlier today. This afternoon we're having a faculty meeting where anybody in the district who's employed can come and listen and participate. And what we want to do is gather up the information that we get from you and present this to the Board of Trustees. The reason we do that is twofold. Number one, in order for us to find the right superintendent, we need to know what you're looking for. What are you, as employees of the district, key stakeholders, stakeholders. And as an employee of the district, trust me when I tell you, you are a key stakeholder. And so we want to know what you're looking for in your next leader. And so the purpose of this meeting is to gather up information from you so that we can pass it along to the Board of Trustees as they develop their profile in eliciting responses for the next superintendent. Now let me tell you about the board's role in this particular job of searching for the new superintendent. The board has 4 essential functions. If you look in your board policy, in Section B, it'll list out what the board's role is. The board has 4 essential functions. Number 1, the most important function, it is their job to hire the superintendent. It is given to them by state law and by board policy, and it is their exclusive job to do that. They also set board policies and procedures. They set your annual tax rate, and they adopt a budget for you to work within. But that number 1 is critical, to hire the superintendent. Now, a lot of times in communities, the community wants to get real involved and tell the board who to hire, or get involved in the interview process, or find out who's applying for the job. That gets to be a little bit of a problem because, number 1, it is the board's exclusive role to hire the superintendent. By law, the board cannot disclose to you the names of the applicants for the position. Let's say we had a 2nd grade teaching position, or even something else. We are hiring a new band director or high school principal or head football coach. Those are the most controversial ones. And you want to know who's applied. You can ask who's applied for these positions. That information is subject to the Texas Public Information Act. I will tell you it is not subject, and in fact it is a violation of the Texas Public Information Act for the board to disclose the names of the applicants for this position. There's a reason for that, in that it can discourage people from applying if they think word is going to get out in their community that they've applied. So the board can't share that information with you. Oh, I keep doing that. I have a fat finger. By law, they also can't, even if you, let's say, for example, you have a cousin that lives in another town, and their superintendent told your cousin they were applying for this job, and your cousin called you, and you see a board member and you go, hey, I heard, John Doe was applying for the job. They can't go yes or no or maybe or anything else. They can't disclose to you. Even if there's somebody who's applying that walks around Bastrop ISD saying, hey, I'm going to apply for this job. I want to be the next superintendent. The board still can't disclose to you whether or not they've applied. They can't disclose to you who they're going to interview. Well, I know they applied, but did you interview so-and-so? They can't disclose that information to you. They can't even tell you if they considered interviewing them or offering them the position. That is totally in violation of the Texas Public Information Act. So don't feel bad if you ask one of the board members, hey, who all's applied for the job? Because they can't tell you that information. So keep that in mind. So with that said, I've got some questions that I'm going to ask you, and I want your honest opinion, because the one thing the board can do is take input from the community on the profile and what the next superintendent looks like. And as a part of our process, we are going to develop the profile, what the profile looks like for the next superintendent. It's going to be based on board input, but it's also going to be based on community, staff, parent, and student input as well. So based on those surveys and these meetings, I hope to glean a lot of information from you about what we're looking for in our next leader. Now, I've got some help here. I'm going to ask you to stand up. And the reason we're asking you to do this is because we are going to be live streaming this, and so in order for it to capture your responses, we have a microphone for you to speak into. We've got plenty of time and we don't have a lot of questions, but it's very important that we capture your answers. So let's go with our first question. What do you consider the strengths of Bastrop ISD? Anybody? Just raise your hand and she'll bring you the microphone. Anybody? Come on. Okay, we have one.
I think one of the things that we're doing really well right now is the increased enrollment at Circa, and that program that it's, what it offers for our students and the community and their parents.
So we have people who are interested in coming to Bastrop ISD. Great. What are some of our other strengths at Bastrop ISD? We have one back here. Well, you're going to get your workout today.
Partnering with the community.
Okay, partnering with the community. Great response. Anybody else? Here's one.
I will say, I think that for the most part, everybody in this district is here for the right reasons for the kids.
Okay.
And I think that we all show that pretty well.
That the staff is here to support the students. That's great. What other strengths do you see within Bastrop ISD? Now, if you work here, surely you can find a strength of Bastrop ISD. Here we go. Oh, we have a lot of them. Tell us.
Well, I think our partnership with our businesses, that we believe in Bastrop ISD and what that brings to our campuses, like in terms of grants. So it shows, just like she was saying, the community partnership. I think that's a huge strength.
Great.
Of what our district is doing, going in the right direction.
Community partnerships. Anybody else? Here we go.
I think that we provide, Bastrop tries hard to provide a continuum of services for students and multi-different levels. Like we have, like I'm thinking like in our special ed department, like they're really focused on the inclusiveness of kids and making sure all kids are included. So they provide the continuum of services that allow us to do those kind of things.
So we try to serve all children, not just the easy kids, all kids. Great. Anybody else? Anybody else have any strengths of Bastrop ISD? Yes, got one?
Sure.
I don't want to leave anybody out.
I think we, again, to echo their sentiments, we really do well with our business, partnering with our biggest community, and I think we do well with communicating our message to our key stakeholders and really trying to set forth a strong public image and living to what our mission statement really is within the school district, and really set a positive example across the district with our students and our staff, as well as the key stakeholders in the area.
Okay, that's great. Anybody else have any more strengths from Bastrop?
I think one of the strengths that Bastrop has is they take care of their own. There are a lot of people who are product of Bastrop ISD who come back home to give and pay back to the district. I myself being one. I think that's real important because I think the district does take care of their own. People who are products of the district come back to pay the district back by teaching and working for the district. I think tradition is very important to our district also. Football, everything else, the tradition is there. If I went to Coach Turner's funeral the other day. Once a bear, always a bear. I think that's real important because you have a sense of pride in where you came from and what you teach.
I like that, a sense of pride and a sense of giving back to the community. Yes.
One of the strengths that I see is the daycare that they offer for teachers and staff.
Oh, that's great. Anybody else have another strength that you'd like to articulate?
I think one of the other things that we do is we consider, the needs of our students and the community in terms of we do the back to school bash, making sure our kids start off this year with having school supplies. There's coats for kids that's held in December to make sure that our kids have a warm coat. I think some of the other things that we do, we partner with being able to offer adult ESL classes across the community, there are GED classes, and so, not only taking care of our students, but also reaching out into the community to meet the other needs of our students and their families.
Great. Okay, I'll open it up one more time. Does anybody else have a strength of Bastrop ISD? Okay, well, let's go to our next question. we're good, we're never perfect. So what concerns do you have about Bastrop ISD? What concerns do you have for Bastrop ISD? Anybody? Somebody? Here's one. Well, we've got several people. Okay, great.
One of the concerns that I see is just the behaviors that we're having to deal with in the classroom.
Okay.
And then I had another one left me.
We had one right up here.
A big concern that I see is teacher recruitment and retention. This is my third year at Cedar Creek High School, and I've seen most of the English department go both years. I think a big issue with teacher recruitment and retention is teacher pay.
Okay. Teacher pay and teacher recruitment and retention. That's what you were going to say? Okay, great. Great. Anybody else have a concern for Bastrop ISD?
I'm concerned that the community doesn't want to support the bonds to build more facilities.
Okay. The need for more facilities, the need for community support for more facilities. Okay, anybody else have concerns for Bastrop ISD? Wait, we're going to get you on this microphone because we're live streaming, and so we want everybody to hear what you have to say.
One concern I have is really getting parents involved and educated and knowledgeable about what we really do.
Okay, so parent involvement is a concern. Thank you. Anybody else have concerns that you'd like to share? Here we go.
I think we have to also be mindful of the student academic achievement and what our students are, able to do on campuses and what that looks like in terms of accountability, because we're not going to escape that. That's something that's never going to change, right? And so how Bastrop fits in that, within the region and across the state, that I think that's a concern that I have.
Okay, so student achievement and accountability. Anybody else have a concern? Hands going up. Anybody else? Here we go.
I would say teacher morale is also a very big concern, district-wide. I think that teacher morale has gotten lower this year, partly as a reaction to the loss of PLC. So I would hope that whoever the superintendent is pays a lot of attention to morale, because I think increasing teacher morale is a big part of increasing retention.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Anybody else have a concern? Any other concerns for Bastrop ISD? Okay. Are you sure? Going. Oh, one more. Okay. No, we want to hear your voice. It's important for us to hear your voice.
Okay. I teach at Cedar Creek, so I don't really know how the demographics are at BHS, but our ELL population is growing tremendously, and I'm not seeing a similar growth in diversity among the staff. I think it would be really excellent if we could prioritize hiring Hispanic educators as well.
Okay, so a changing demographic, and in line with that, consistent demographic with staff. Changing demographics. Anybody else have a concern? Does that spur anybody else to think of a concern? Okay, I promise I'm going to be mindful of your time, and I promised I would get you out of here within an hour. So I know many of you have had an extremely long day, and there's nothing you want to do more than just sit here all afternoon and talk with the lawyer. So the third question. When we hire a new superintendent, and I say we, it's not me, when the board hires its new superintendent, what do you think will be the most important issue for the new superintendent to address? What one most important issue do you think there will be for the new superintendent to address? Okay.
I think that issue is going to be our ELL population. I teach out at Cedar Creek Middle School, and our ELL population is so high, but yet we, as teachers out there, are expected to meet so many things that even for us are very difficult because of training and other issues that we're expected to do these things, but yet we don't have the resources to get us the education to do so. I think for our ELL population.
Now, before you give back your microphone, just because I know we're live streaming and there may be people watching throughout the district, would you just explain, even though I know, explain to those who are watching what an ELL student is?
Our ELLs are English language learners.
These are students who don't speak proficient English, regardless of what language they speak. They don't speak proficient English. And so the first part of our job is to teach them to read and write, but we also have to teach the English language as well, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that so that those who are watching live stream will understand what we're talking about. Anybody else have an issue that you believe the new superintendent must address?
I think it goes right along what he said, but when I think about like the academic achievement and the gaps between student groups, and closing those academic gaps. So I think, focus in the academic achievement, but you're going to have to look at what our student population is.
Okay.
And how we're going to be able to move all of our students forward.
Okay, so closing the academic achievement gap, not just district-wide, but among the diverse population that we're now seeing in Bastrop ISD. Okay? We've got one there and one there. Oh, good. I'm so excited.
One of the things I'm thinking of is growth. I mean, this district is really growing in regards to student population, and not only the growth, but making sure that we have the facilities to adequately maintain the student growth that's occurring in this district.
So the most important issue would be helping facilitate and manage the student growth, both instructionally, academic, and facility, and everything else. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Mine kind of piggybacks off of that. I think the new superintendent needs to improve the relationship with the community, so maybe we can move forward with growth, may be able to get a bond pass. We need to have a positive relationship with the community, and we don't seem to have that at this point.
Okay, so the new superintendent's going to need to build a positive relationship between community, staff, parents, and students. Okay? Okay.
I think that also goes back to our western side of the district. That side needs to be heard. We need home visits. 5 years ago when I came here, our campus did home visits. I haven't seen that or from our leaders really go out into the community. We can sit and talk all day about community involvement, and but unless you go get addresses and go to homes and talk with these people, because they're not going to come to you. We need to really get this involvement, especially on our western sides where I see we need
community and parent involvement. Okay, here's one right here.
I second the need for we need to get a bond pass. We need to have better and bigger facilities because we are growing and we're not going to stop growing. I mean, the whole I-35 corridor is a huge, one of the top population growth areas in the nation. And like at CCHS, our admin have done a really good job of kind of helping us figure out where we can put students. But I think that it does, a lot of the morale issues and a lot of the behavior issues, I think, go back to overcrowding.
To the staffing and space issues.
Yep.
So you believe one of the most important issues to address is going to be managing that growth, not only for a diverse population, but managing it from a facilities perspective, places to put bodies.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, great. Anybody else have an issue that you feel we need to address for the new superintendent? Here we go. Are you raising your hand? No? Oh, sorry. Anybody else? Anybody else have an issue that you think the superintendent will need to address?
I'll say what I said in our meeting today, which it goes back to the lines of communication, but it also goes back to how is the superintendent going to address discipline within the district? Because I do think that is a concern of some of the parents in the community, and so I think that establishing, again, those lines of communication, but then also addressing and talking about that particular issue. I think some parents might be afraid to discuss it, but having those open lines of communication to truly talk about discipline in general.
Okay, great. Anybody else have an issue that you think we need to address with the new superintendent will need to address, the most important issue? I'm going to perch up here for just a minute because this next question to me is very important. When you start thinking about your next superintendent, I want you to think about what personal qualities, personal characteristics this individual needs. I'm not talking about their educational requirements or job duty requirements. I'm talking about personal requirements such as integrity or honesty, personal requirements that you think are going to be required for this next superintendent to have in order to show success at BISD. So from that perspective, what are the most important personal qualities or characteristics that you feel are needed for the next superintendent of BISD? Okay?
Approachability.
Approachability, someone with an open door policy and someone that the community feels comfortable approaching, okay?
Having vision.
Vision.
5, 10, 15 years down the road.
Okay, vision. What else? Oh, I see hands. Yay.
Being a good communicator.
Being a good communicator. Okay.
A willingness to step outside the office, to go maybe out to the western side of the district, to go out into the little communities where a lot of our students come from, and not just staying on the eastern side.
Okay, so a superintendent who's willing to be seen throughout the entire district, both in the communities and in the schools. I think that's great. Somebody else back here? I saw a hand. Anybody? What other personal qualities do you think will be needed for the next superintendent? Okay?
Being genuine. Just
okay.
That sense of, being genuine.
Okay, a genuine individual. What else? Any other personal qualities you see that are needed? Okay.
In it for the kids.
Okay, someone who believes in the children of BISD and puts them first. All right, back up here.
Persistence, like follow through. Even if something is hard at the beginning, they stick with it and they carry it forward.
Okay, great. Persistence, follow through. Someone who will ensure that the mission and vision are accomplished. Anybody else have a personal characteristic or quality they feel is important for the next superintendent?
I'd like to see someone who has a history of commitment, that we're not getting someone that was in a school district that had been there for like 2 or 3 years and they're ready to move on to the next thing, that someone that's willing to commit themselves, for the turnaround, for the time that it's going to take to get us to where we need to be.
Okay, somebody who has a personal commitment to the goals and the time needed to accomplish those goals. That's great. Anyone else? Anyone else? What other personal qualities or characteristics?
Mine kind of piggybacks off of Tina. I think we have to have somebody that actually really cares about kids and the community and be enough to be involved and invested in where they are. That's what I see. I want people to be here because they want to be here and want to make a difference, and that's what I think they need to actually care.
Great. Somebody who's in it for Bastrop ISD, who wants to be a committed part of Bastrop ISD. That's great. Does anyone else have a personal characteristic or quality that you see that is going to be necessary for your next superintendent? Okay, got 2. Got one here, one here.
I think having a good sense of humor, because sometimes school is so stressful, but somebody that also, if they can have a good sense of humor.
Okay. Probably very much needed in the school business these days.
Thanks. I was just going to say someone who's just really genuine.
Okay. Someone who's genuine. Any other personal characteristics or qualities that you think we need to address or ensure that the board knows are important for the next superintendent? Okay, so having addressed those, let's look at the most important skills or education. What skills or education that is needed for the next superintendent? What are those skills that are going to be required for your superintendent to be successful in leading Bastrop ISD? Okay.
I think a superintendent who is bilingual in English and Spanish would be a really excellent thing to have.
Okay.
I think it would show a lot of commitment to our population, our quickest growing subgroup. And I also think a superintendent who has a background in the classroom, didn't just go straight into administration. Ideally, I would love someone that had spent 10 years in the classroom as a classroom teacher. That might be a high ask, but I think it would be an awesome thing to see.
Okay, somebody with actual classroom experience, also someone who is bilingual. What other qualifications or educational skills are needed?
I think that we need someone that comes with superintendent experience or right near that level, which could be in a district, whether you call that a deputy super, some districts may call that an associate super, but someone who has proven leadership skills, because I don't want to see someone come here where they are on the job training, right? We're not in a place to grow you in the superintendency. We need someone that can come and find us where we are and lead us forward.
Okay, great, thank you. Anybody else have any qualifications or skills that you believe are necessary for the next superintendent to possess in order to lead Bastrop in a positive and visionary forward role? Anybody else? Okay.
I think having some sort of prior history with the district, I just think that when you have a relationship already or some kind of real life connection or somebody that really knows the school district and they're invested in some kind of way, it would be great to have a person like that.
Okay, someone with a connection to Bastrop or a relationship with Bastrop ISD. Anybody else? Okay.
I think a PhD in educational administration would be a real sign of commitment to being the best administrator it's possible for them to be.
Okay, somebody with a PhD. Anybody else? Any other qualities or skills or educational levels that you feel like are important? Okay.
I think a PhD is good, but I think and/or education and experience equivalent to that is a good thing too, because you don't want to get too caught up on that and then we miss out on somebody that come with all those skill sets.
Okay, somebody with good experience and/or a PhD. Okay. Yes.
I'm also getting questions and comments from our people who are watching.
Oh, great.
So I wanted to share those with folks. So let's see, I want to make sure I'm reading everything right. We have somebody who wants to add to the strength being our health care and services provided to students. But a concern related to that is that there's not enough to meet the needs of the student. And in terms of qualities looking for in the superintendent, someone who's approachable and someone who is open-minded. And I'm going to respond by email to this other one because I'm not sure what she means. I just want to share that.
Great, thank you. I like an interactive meeting. That's wonderful. I think it's great that you have the technology that you can obtain all that information. And our last question is, what priorities will the new superintendent of Bastrop ISD need to address in the first 100 days of service? So when we hire somebody, when that board, they've named their lone finalist, they've signed a contract, they've got boots on the ground here in the district, what do they need to address in those first 100 days? Okay, got over here.
Developing a plan for growth.
Developing a plan for growth. That's great. What else? Up here?
I think developing a plan of how we will support our teachers on campuses, because generally you think about a new super would come in around, if we move for the next school year, July 1 or right after, and we will be right heading into the new school year. So I think that there needs to be a plan of how we are going to support our campus leaders as they support our teachers.
Great. That's a good answer. Anybody else have an idea for what the first 100 days, what the new superintendent should address? Okay.
Getting out there to meet with the community.
Okay. Being visible in the community and in the district too, I bet. Being visible, okay? Anybody else?
I will tag on to what she said in supporting the teachers, because I don't think it is the fault of the superintendent, but we have a very low morale on campuses this year due to some changes that were made. I would hope that someone would address that right away.
Okay, so the morale of the teachers. Okay, who else? What other issues should the superintendent address in the first 100 days?
I mean, this is kind of tagging on to what she said about plan for growth, but I would definitely I would want them to have some sort of plan for how we're going to update and expand our facilities.
Okay.
Possibly tagging on to the plans we've already developed for the bonds that didn't pass.
Okay, so expanding our facilities to address the growth that's coming. What else? Anybody else have a need to address within the first 100 days? Now, I will tell you, and I want to say this to you, the way this process works is very interesting, because as I told you, the board can't tell you who they're going to hire, who they're going to interview, who has applied for the job. But the way this works is, once the board selects a finalist, they must name, once they think they know who they want to hire, then the board has to name a lone finalist, and they have to post that position publicly for 21 days. That position is posted publicly by coming out in a board meeting and voting to name a lone finalist. It is during that 21-day period that obviously the board will negotiate a contract with the new superintendent, but at that meeting where they named the lone finalist, that is the board's notice to the public who the expected choice is for the position. The board may not hire the superintendent until that person has been publicly named for 21 days. That is the board's vetting period for the public. So during that 21 days, if you have concerns or questions about who the board has named as their lone finalist, that is your opportunity for you to go in and share that, email the board, or share that with the board. So if you have concerns, that 21-day period. After the 21-day period, then the board may legally hire and name and put under contract your next superintendent. I will also tell you, we have and we encourage, because the board can't go out. The board can't go out and call up somebody and go, hey, I want you to apply for superintendent. What they can do, though, and what they have done, is they have named us as their search consultant. And they have asked us to convey to you that if you know of a really good, really qualified candidate that you would like to see apply for the position, because the only way they're going to get in front of the board is to fill out an application, is the board is asking that you nominate someone to apply for the position of superintendent. If there is someone that you would like to nominate to apply for the position of superintendent, you can email me right there at that email address, and I will actually reach out to that individual and let them know, after we develop our profile, that they have been nominated to apply for the position of superintendent. I think that's very important, because it gives you the opportunity to let the board know that you are interested in someone that you think might be a good fit. Because you can't go in and tell the board who to hire. You can't go in and tell the board who they need to reach out to. But if you reach out to me, then I will reach out to those that you suggest and invite them to participate by applying for the position of superintendent. Now, I want to say this. There's two things I want to say to you. First and foremost, how many of you know that there's a survey on your board's school district website that you can fill out with your opinion? How many of you know about that? Okay, keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. How many of you have filled out the survey? Wow. Okay, I'm impressed. I am very impressed. Now, here's my challenge to you. Here's what I'm going to challenge you to do. I would like for you to tell 10 people to fill out that survey. And it doesn't have to be somebody you work with. It can be a parent. It can be another employee. It can be your next door neighbor if you live here in Bastrop. It can be the woman that you run into at the grocery store. But between now and March 19th, and I believe our survey closes at noon on that day. 10 a.m. At 10 a.m. Our survey closes at 10 a.m. on March 19th. I would encourage you to each, I mean, think about this. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 19. We have 20 people in this room. So if each of you goes out and encourages 10 people to fill out that survey, that's an additional 200 people that we'll get input from. I'm going to tell you, and I mean this with all sincerity, the board thanks you for filling out that survey. They thank you for taking the time to come this afternoon and provide your responses to us, because it is important to the board to know, I mean, you guys, in reality, you're walking the halls of this school district. You are walking the halls of these campuses. You're interacting daily with these children. You are what we call boots on the ground. You are there at the front line. And it is important to the Board of Trustees to know what you see and want in your next superintendent. Although you can't tell them who to pick, you can't even know who's applied, it's important for them to know what you want. Because if they know what you want, they can develop that profile so that we ensure that we seek the right individual. The way our process works is we will develop an application and a profile based on all this data we're gathering from you at these meetings and by receiving all the surveys. And I will tell you, the surveys are all anonymous. We are not tracking IP addresses. We don't care who fills out the survey. What we care about is the opinion in the survey. And we're going to gather up all of that data and provide it to the Board of Trustees. We'll condense it, because that's a lot of data for them to look at. And we'll condense that down so that they can see what the main concerns are, the qualities and the characteristics that you're looking for, what you as key stakeholders feel is important for the board to determine in setting a profile. Once we set the profile for what we're looking for, as the board begins to look through applications and resumes and thinks about the person they want as they go through the interview process, they'll have some really good data to look at. And you know what that data is? That data is your opinion. That data is what we're collecting today. That data is what we're getting from you that says, hey, school board, when you go out and you hire our next superintendent, make sure you look for these things. And I will tell you, the board thanks you very much for your efforts, for your effort to come this afternoon. I was afraid the storm might keep people away, but I thank you for coming out in spite of it. I know many of you have had a long day. Many of you have put in a lot of hours today. You've been on your feet a lot today, and you're probably ready to go home and prop your feet up. So I appreciate you taking the time to come today. I know the board does, because your input is very valuable to them. Now, I promised I would be honoring your time and not keeping you up here past the hour that we needed you. So I will say that Dr. Lee has provided some cookies and bottled water. That's about all we can offer you. Can't pay you or anything like that, but we do have some delicious cookies and bottled water. At least for your ride home, we can make it a little bit more pleasant. She's been baking cookies all day long. So
Look a lot like the ones you can get at HEB,
but they're not. So we want to thank you, and I think you could. Okay, great. Okay.
So one person said that one personal quality that they thought the superintendent was needed was to have to be able to work well under pressure and in crises and adversity, because of the things that we've had happen here in Bastrop with the fires and the floods and ice storms, that they need to be able to handle those things well. Also, one particular teacher is concerned that we tend to spend so much time on teaching that we're not necessarily focused a lot on building the relationships between teachers and students, that we don't devote enough time to that. And so the concern is that the SEL curriculum that we're implementing right now in intermediate and middle school continues, and that it gets expanded across the district, because they find that that's really important. And I want to tag on to something that Rhonda said, is when you go out and you ask those 10 people to do the survey, please also reach out to not the usual suspects, if you understand what I mean. Pick some different people. We're going to be asking the people on our campuses to fill out those surveys. We already have done that, and we'll keep reminding them. But your neighbors, your Spanish-speaking friends and neighbors, especially students that you feel are of age to be able to understand that survey and take that, we want student input too. So get outside the box on who you ask and invite to participate in that survey. It is available in English and in Spanish on our district website.
Again, I want to thank you for your time. I want to honor your time and not keep you very long. I will say this: if you make sure you sign the sign-up sheet that you came in, then we will thank you by offering you a cookie and water and sending you on your way. Happy Monday to each and every one of you. Thank you.
And I'll go ahead and just to let everybody know. So the meeting is just about to start. This meeting is being live streamed so that people who are not able to be here in person can still participate and hear the discussions. In the meeting that we had just prior to this, we were also live streaming that, and we did have people kind of submit questions and comments and participate, from home or work in the process. And so I may be sharing feedback that I'm getting online with you all too as we're going through. So I'm Christy Lee. I'm the Executive Director of Communications for Bastrop ISD. And Rhonda Crass is our consultant. She's also one of our attorneys here in the district with Lisa Crass, and she's going to be facilitating tonight's meeting. But because we are live streaming, she's going to be using a microphone, and then any feedback that you all give as she goes through some questions with you, you're going to speak into the microphone too, just so that it picks up what everybody is saying. So if you don't mind kind of being willing to share the microphone and pass it around, that would be really helpful.
I think I can pass this on. It's not a big crowd.
Well, but you'll need one, probably two. But I'm just going to leave it up here and.
Great.
The seat for the microphone right there.
Perfect. I want to thank you all for coming. I know it was short notice, and it's kind of a humid, cloudy day outside. It's typical Monday, which you'd probably rather get home. I do promise that I will honor your time. I promise not to keep you any longer than necessary, but it's very important that we gather this information from you. And so as we begin, I want to give you a little bit of an agenda for our evening so that you'll know what's going to happen. So the first thing I want to share with you is, who is Lisa Crass? Who is Lisa Crass? Well, Lisa Crass is a law firm. We're located in the Metroplex, and we represent Bastrop ISD. And we've been hired by the Board of Trustees to assist them in selecting and developing the search for their next superintendent. As many of you know, Mr. Steve Murray retired, I guess, December of this year. The board has named Barry Edwards as your interim superintendent. And while he's holding down the fort and fulfilling that role, we're going to help the board locate and search for their new superintendent. And finding a superintendent is kind of like finding a needle in a haystack. There's that one perfect person that's out there that we want to find so that you will have the very best superintendent possible at Bastrop ISD. So the question is, what is our role in this superintendent search? Because I know I get asked that question a lot. Well, what are you going to do in the superintendent search? Are you going to be out there telling the board what to do and who to hire? The answer to that question is no. Our role is to assist the board in facilitating the superintendent search. We provide them with a great deal of data and a great deal of information so that they can make a very informed decision on who they want as the next superintendent. How do we assist them in that role? Well, the first thing we've done is we have put forth a survey. It's located on your school district website for the community members and anybody who is a stakeholder to take, because the board is very interested in the information that you are providing to them about what the next superintendent looks like. So that's very important. Do we tell them who to pick? Absolutely not. Our job is to help them find that right person and make sure their postings, applications, and everything they do is legally compliant with the superintendent search rules promulgated by the Texas Education Code. And so the question then is, what is the purpose of this meeting? Why have we called you here and asked for your input? Well, because it is very important to the Board of Trustees that you provide input to them into what the next superintendent's profile may look like and what kind of leader that you hope to see the board seek and search for as they begin to find that needle in the haystack at Bastrop ISD. So your input is very, very important to the board in what they seek and what you would like to see in the next superintendent. Now, I'm going to say this to you. Before we begin, I need to tell you what the board's role is in the superintendent search. If you look at the 4 essential functions of the Board of Trustees, they have 4 main jobs. The first one is to hire the superintendent. It is probably the most important function your board will exercise because having that leader at the helm of your district is critical. So hiring the superintendent is very important. They set the policies and procedures, they set the tax rate, and every year they pass an annual budget so that the employees and the superintendent know how much money they have to spend. So those are the 4 essential functions of the board. Now, here's the thing. The board can't delegate the duty of hiring a superintendent to members of the community. There's a reason we don't ask community members to sit in on an interview or to sit in on a screening committee for who we interview. Because by law, under the Texas Public Information Act, the board cannot disclose to anyone outside that boardroom, that includes spouses and everyone else, the board cannot disclose who the applicants are for that position. You know, as a rule, whoever applies for a position here is public record at a school district. However, the one exception to that rule is for the position of superintendent. So the board, if you ask them, so who all's applied, they can't tell you. Or even if you go so far as to say, not who all has applied, but hey, did so-and-so apply? We can't give you that information. They can't tell you who you're going to interview. They can't tell you who they even considered as a part of that program and as a part of that process. So don't feel like they're excluding you if they tell you, I can't give you that information. What they can get from you, though, is important data and important input about what you want that person to look like. We're asking the board to find the needle in the haystack. We want you to tell the board what the needle looks like, so that they can go out and find the perfect person. It's important to the Board of Trustees to get input from community members, key stakeholders, parents, staff, students, and other community folks who are involved. So with that said, I promise to honor your time. I have a few questions I want to ask you. And in doing so, I'm going to need you, as Dr. Lee said, when I ask the question, it's important for you to respond. So if you'll respond into the microphone, it's very important because this meeting is being live streamed throughout the community, and I'm probably driving them crazy because I'm moving around so much. But this meeting is being live streamed through the community, and it's important for them to be able to hear your responses as we ask these questions. So are you ready? Are you willing to help? Absolutely. Great. Thank you. And I want to thank you for taking your time on a Monday for coming. I know this is probably not the most convenient day of the week. Okay, so our first question is, what do you as an individual consider to be the strengths of Bastrop ISD? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of hand you the microphone, and if we could just kind of go around the room, and then I'll pick it back up there so everybody can respond. Next time, though, I'm going to start with her. So we'll move it around, so give everybody time to think, okay? How about that?
Thank you. Okay. Some of the strengths that I absolutely adore about Bastrop ISD is that there is a strong community and business, their relationships are strong within education, and I've seen that personally, and that's one of the big motivators for me.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I would similarly say that, I think that the school district's involvement in the community has been very good. That I think Steve Murray was really good at getting out and going to events that were outside the school district, but community oriented, and try to bring in community involvement. I think that is a very strong point.
Great, thank you.
We don't quit.
Oh, great response. Great response.
I would say the teachers are one of our biggest assets that we have. With my kids being in the school, I see that every day.
Great.
I'd rather not comment on this one.
I think one of the things that we see is there are lots of opportunities for our students to be involved. There are a lot of different types of organizations for our kids to find their niche, and I really think that's a great strength of our school district.
Wonderful.
I think one of the strengths of the district is tradition. Bastrop has a long-lasting tradition. If you went to this school, the district likes to bring you back, and we like to come back and pay the district back as teachers or administrators. So I think that's a big strength, is the tradition that BISD has towards its former students.
Great. No, we want to hear from her. You have an important opinion. We'd like to hear, what do you think a strength is? Can you tell us? No? Well, we'll catch you on the next one. How about that? All right.
I think the commitment that Bastrop ISD has with the employees and their students.
Great. Thank you.
I think probably for myself, the biggest strength is the development and continued growth with community partners, not just businesses, but also within the city and the community as a whole.
Oh, that's great. I'm going to get you to just hold that. Oh no, we have a response back here. Yay! If y'all will pass that down to him. And in fact, you hold it, and we'll start with you next time.
Okay. What did pop in my head was Circa. I think that's the biggest strength Bastrop ISD has as far as to its students and for parents having to pay for college. Go ahead.
Would you explain what Circa is for those who are live streaming or who may not be familiar with that?
So Circa is basically another high school college preparatory school. It helps students prepare for college by the time that they finish high school, they will have graduated with their associate's degree and a high school diploma, which gives them 2 years of college courses that I, as a parent, won't have to pay for. And if the student wants to proceed at going to college, if that's their goal, then that saves me 2 years of money. So
that's great.
Number one is make sure the superintendent does not screw that up. Okay.
Did you get that down? There you go. Okay, so I'm going to get you to hold the microphone because we're going to have a next question. Would you like to comment on what you think the strengths of Bastrop ISD are? You going to hold that thought? Okay. So our next question, everything, no matter how much good we have in a community, no matter how much good we have in a school district, nobody's perfect, and there are always issues that we must address. So I'm going to ask you, oh, I hit the wrong button again. Okay. What concerns do you have for Bastrop ISD? So if we're going out there to recruit a superintendent, as you know, most of the time while we're recruiting people to apply for the district, they're asking, so what's going on in the district? What's the good? What's the bad? It's important that they know what's going on. So if you were able to have an opportunity to visit with a potential candidate, what would you share as your concern for Bastrop ISD?
My biggest concern is support for the teachers.
Okay.
In ways of getting them certified, and not just being teachers, but also in all those other things that they have, like ELLs, bilingual. You just add on to the list. So how do you get those teachers all those certifications so that they're able to, so that as Bastrop, we're able to have the best teachers in the world.
Okay,
so
great. All right. What concerns do you have for Bastrop?
I think one of the things that we think about is the rapid growth There's a lot of changes. You know, there are a lot of changes that are coming to our community. We have lots of folks moving in all the time, and so we know that we are a rapid growth district. I mean, it's a steady growth, right? And so every year we have new students coming, and so we need to be able to have the facilities to meet the needs of those students.
Great. What concerns do you have for Bastrop?
I think teacher morale is a big concern. Teaching is not what it used to be. They put more and more and more responsibility on teachers, and we have to do all these other things, and we just want to teach. You know, all the paperwork, all the meetings, all the trainings, all the conferences we need to go to, and we're taken out of the classroom, and we, you know, the kids miss us, and we lose that opportunity to teach, and a lot of the teachers don't like that, even though they're trying to better us, but it's really hard to be a teacher these days.
Okay, thank you.
I think one of the concerns for me is our Spanish community, having somebody able to connect with them, to reach out to them and get them more involved, because it's a rapid growth, especially on the Cedar Creek site.
Okay.
So I think that's a concern I see.
Probably my biggest concern is kind of coinciding with some of the others is, you know, the ability to flex and move with, you know, the ongoing growth the communities not only has currently, but will see in the next 2 years even, and being prepared for that influx of students and having the ability to attract the staff to fulfill those opportunities.
Great, thank you. I'm going to pass it to you, and then we'll go down and come back up.
One of my concerns is the behavior in the district and how we can help students that have challenging behaviors, and how we can help teachers deal with misbehaving students. The other one is, excuse me, is teacher retention, teacher pay. I believe that Bastrop is getting their bang for their buck, because we don't get paid very much, but yet we give a lot. So,
okay.
Those are my two concerns.
Teacher retention, quality pay, and discipline within the schools. Those are good concerns.
One last thing,
yes.
Superintendent pay. I think it should not be as much as it was at this last superintendent. So okay. I think it should be equitable around the district.
Okay.
I would say pretty much the same thing she said. Was teacher support is the biggest thing for me, you know, dealing with some issues with my daughter, and some things that why I've had to go to the school was mainly due to not my daughter's behavior, but others' behavior, and the way they're acting, and it reflects onto the teacher and them being able to teach and things like that. So I would pretty much say the same thing.
Okay.
I would say too that we wanted to make sure that we have a quality education, that our students are getting the best education, so they're when they graduate, or even when they go into high school, they're prepared, and they have prepared for a lot of options, not just one option of going to college or going to vocational school. And I think having a really quality of superintendent with the leadership, quality is going to attract more people to Bastrop that want to live here, that
Absolutely.
can afford and have also education as their top priority. And I'd like to see that the students and the parents all have similar educational goals. And
that's great. That's a great comment. So that what you're saying is you want to see that we have very diverse programs, so that every student who leaves Bastrop ISD has had an opportunity to fulfill their dreams and their goals, and not just and there are more than just one or two options. Get
right.
you next.
And then I think, you know, the whole thing is that a good school district is economic development for the whole community. If the school fails, the community
fails.
My concerns would be I think first and foremost, being able to grow the infrastructure of the schools to accommodate the growth that we have here. I mean, we've had some bond issues that have failed. I think we need somebody who knows how to sell a bond issue. You can't just throw it out there and expect people to vote it in if you don't really justify it. So I would be looking for somebody that had experience in a high growth area where the funds are limited and you've got to leverage every asset that you have, get the most use out of every facility, out of every teacher, out of every asset that the school district has, and be able to really justify why you need to spend more to accommodate the kids. And along with Martha's comments, I think more vocational opportunities here, so that when kids come out of school, that they have the talents, the training to go out in the marketplace and get a job. Kids are going through school and they get out, and even through college now, depending on what they major in, some of those majors just don't have practical uses. And so I think good guidance, good counseling would be important, and but having somebody that knows how to really broaden the scope of the schools, but do it in a very cost-effective way.
Great. Here you go.
Thank you. I want to also affirm that for the teacher morale, I think in order to strengthen the district, it has the ability to pull quality teachers, but the turnover is rather high. One of the things that I would like to see is some type of internal leadership growth program for the teachers themselves. I would like to also speak on the behavior models. Those, what we have could be improved. I think it needs to be stressed that behavior should never impact, other students in the classroom, and I think that that's something that we're seeing across the board, and that's also somewhere that a place that needs to be improved. I'm sorry, I'm nervous. Maybe. They always say that the quality of a business or a program is how you treat everyone from the top to the bottom. And I know through experience that the custodians that was sold off to another company. And I had heard that they were not treated well. And that's something to take into consideration, because if it's a growth, it should be across the whole board.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, thank you. Thank you both. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your comments. Okay, so our next question is, what do you think will be the most important issue for the new superintendent to address when they land at Bastrop ISD?
Oh, I wish.
Wait, let's see.
Wow, that's a really broad question. I would have to say, I think at this point, probably teacher morale and the cohesiveness on the internal aspects of BISD, and making sure that everybody's on the same page, moving in the same direction, accomplishing the same goals as a team, and having those opportunities available for all staff. If you don't have it at the beginning, the core, then you can't provide it to the external. And so for me, I think that that's probably the most important piece, is to take care of your home before you try to take care of the surroundings.
Okay, great, thank you.
I think I will have to agree with what she's putting out there. That's probably one of the most important things right now.
Okay, thank you.
I think growth is going to be a really big issue because, Austin is getting, bigger, and there's only one other way to come, and it's this way. And I think this district is gonna explode in the next 5-10 years. So I think that's going to be a really, really big issue.
Great. So growth.
I think one of the things will be making sure that every classroom has a certified or a qualified teacher, and that we keep those teachers throughout the year. I think it's very disheartening for kids to start the school year off with a substitute teacher, a long-term sub, and for some of our students, especially I think at the high school levels, you think about courses that they need to be able to pass for an end-of-course exam, algebra, English 1, English 2, that it's crucial that, you know, when we move into the new school year, that our superintendent understands the need to have qualified people in all of our classrooms, right? That, you know, I understand like late hires and all of that, but in my mind, I think, you know, as a parent, it's not acceptable that my kiddo would have to have a teacher, long-term sub, and then another long-term sub over a critical need area.
So you're saying you think we need to adequately staff with quality teachers and then focus on teacher retention?
Yes, because that's what we talk about is teacher retention.
So what do you think will be the most important issue for the new superintendent to address?
I think I'll just pick up kind of what they've been saying. I think it always starts with the teachers. And I'm from the outside just looking in. I do have 2 kids, you know, going to school here in Bastrop ISD, but again, it always starts with the teachers. I'm just going to throw this out there, but I think they need to make more money.
Okay.
Find out a way to pay them more money. But also in addition to that, make sure they're qualified.
So better compensation and more qualified staff.
Yeah, and
Perfect.
I think, you know, those go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
And that's what I was going to say. I think we I don't know what the pay scale is. We used to have, several years ago, we were in one of the top areas for Central Texas, and I don't know if we've dropped behind a lot in pay.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the things that, to keep the teachers and retention. But also, I think probably a big question that's going to happen is the realignment of the classes, or how do you say that?
How do we manage the growth?
Yeah, how do we manage the growth, and what kind of schools are we going to have, and how we cluster them together, and what's the best educational track for kids to be K through 5, whatever.
Okay.
And I think that's going to have to be addressed.
So school organization is a big thing that you see the new superintendent's going to have to address.
But we need to really increase our teachers' salary, and then I guess the morale is an issue y'all talk about.
I'm pretty much going to say the same thing they said, the teacher morale, but also too, I think the principal support in my dealings with my daughter's principal and a couple of issues. He's been very responsive and great, but I think I felt like he didn't have the support that maybe he could have had. And so, so I think that's something to look at too.
So a lot of campus support for administration and teachers. Thank you.
They pretty much pointed out everything I would have said. And the one thing I do want to point out is that although teachers don't make a whole lot of money, we're in it for the kids. And ultimately, that is what we're in it for. It's not really about the money, but it is about the money, because we need to have the same scale as any other working professional out there, and I don't feel like we have that. I also feel like we are working 12, 13, 14 hours a day, and when you round that to, you know, it's barely minimum wage after a while.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just reiterate that the growth issue is, I think, going to be the key thing. The growth of the population, the school population every year keeps going up, and we don't add new facilities, and everything's just getting tighter and tighter, and it's going to be a real challenge for the new superintendent.
So managing the growth is going to be a critical piece. Okay, thank you.
I want to go ahead and reiterate what everyone has said. The important issue, I think, is you know, ensuring, building, and establishing those relationships with the community, with the teachers, supporting the administrators, and just building those strong relationships. we know we should.
Great. I'm going to let you hold that because we're going to get you to start off our next question. Our question number 4. You know, as we look at the superintendent that the board's going to hire, they have two distinct pieces. One is just their personal qualities, their personal traits. I look at things like integrity, honesty, those type things. And then there's the second piece, which is the qualification and skill set, the educational background and skill set to hold that position. So let's look first at what are the most important personal qualities or characteristics that you feel are needed for the next superintendent of Bastrop ISD. Personal characteristics, the things that they exude personally.
I would like, I guess I would like to work with somebody that's approachable.
Okay.
You know, that's kind. I know that sounds cheesy, but I guess it goes
No, it's
hand
very
in
true.
hand
Approachable and kind are
kind. And, you know, in our community for Bastrop ISD, it would be really nice if they were bilingual.
Okay, great.
Our community.
Yeah, I think the superintendent needs to have excellent leadership qualities, how to lead people, for people to feel good about going the direction that the superintendent. So I think the superintendent really needs to be a salesman, a saleswoman, salesperson, someone who can sell their concepts in a way and present it in a way that they get buy-in very easily. And I mean, there are people that can try to force it down your throat, and there are people that you just feel great doing what, you know, getting on the ship and going wherever the ship is going. And we need somebody that can lead the ship, and everybody feels like a team member.
So someone who's a good consensus builder.
Consensus builder, that would be good.
Piggybacking on her approachable, I know we're getting to be a large district. We are pretty large, but I like to know people personally, and I think that if he's a people person or she's a people person, to get out there and know people, get to know people, get to know the teachers and the custodians and the maintenance people. I want somebody that's personable and genuine and concerned about the kids and the teachers and the staff.
Thank you.
I would say someone who's down to earth. In this type of role, sometimes you can be too managerial or too, you know, too highfalutin. I don't really know what you want to call it, but it's just be personable and just show people that you care for them, no matter what.
And I think they're going to have to take that personable talk that y'all talked about to the community. So there's going to needs to be some relationship building and some interaction with the leaders in the community and building back a partnership as well. And then I'd like to see somebody that brings in some new ideas and is as a leader and innovative, but yet meets the needs of our community and not somebody else's community.
Great. So a communicator who's an innovative leader. Okay?
Again, I'm from the outside looking in. I want to see a very high moral character.
Okay.
And who is very honest. I mean, if we have a school that's failing, I want him to say, hey, there's a school that's failing and this is what's going on. I don't like, you know, just beating around the bush or
okay. Someone who's open and honest and transparent.
Yes, but with strong moral turpitude.
Okay. Someone who's a good example of a strong moral character.
Yes.
Okay.
I really would like to see one that's really passionate.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
I'd agree that they need to be an excellent communicator and to be able to communicate with all the needs of all the students that we have. And I thought that was an excellent idea, that it would be great if that person were bilingual, especially in our neck of the woods out at Cedar Creek.
Great. All right.
I would have to say that, yes, we would need somebody bilingual.
Okay.
And approachable.
approachable, and bilingual.
So I'm the last person this time, but you know, in listening to everyone's response, I would have to say that probably the strongest quality is inclusiveness, and that's at every level. You know, within the community and being bilingual, within the school districts, from the teacher staff area, as well as from the student area, and not focusing in one area, like being involved in and inclusive to all of the students.
Thank you.
Much sums it up.
Great. Well, I'm going to let you hold that microphone, because as we talk about the personal characteristics we're looking for, let's talk about the skills or the education, the skill set that you think. What is a skill set or an educational needed for the next superintendent of Bastrop ISD?
I almost think those go hand in hand, but I think probably the biggest skill set is the communication.
Okay, great.
Having that open communication.
Okay.
I think the leadership, being a good leader, being able to direct.
Okay, direct, good leader. All right.
Oh, well, I tend to agree with that. Some of these are overlapping, that they need to have definitely important skills, good communicator, approachable, able to deal with day in and day out activities of a superintendent.
Somebody who has relevant knowledge of the job.
Right.
Okay.
Perfect.
We were talking back here. One of the things that we've talked about a lot in our home is someone with experience. And I'd mentioned that earlier before, that, you know, our school district is not the place where we grow a superintendent. You know, we're in a position right now where we need someone to come in that can help us grow our facilities, that can help us retain our teachers, that can help close achievement gaps with students. And so this is not a place where, you know, we can grow you into that position. I really would like to see someone that's got proven experience, leadership, and a turnaround district or something that, you know, they're bringing something to the table that would be of great use and value to us. Now you think of something?
I'm just going to stress the education part. I think we've already gone over all the personal. I think the person that comes in must have a doctorate degree. This is education, and this is a top person in the district, and I think it is a must-have to have a doctorate degree for this position.
Okay.
Also, I think it shouldn't be a stepping stone for another position to come here and then to go on to leverage just to get to another district, or a better district, or bigger district.
Okay.
And then, I mean, for that not to be the intention, that they're just passing through. And then I think it's important for them to really develop a strong management team that they work well with, and put the right people in the right positions.
Okay.
That will execute all the goals and
great. Thank you.
I'm just going to echo everybody else.
Okay.
I think that the person that comes in should also have been somebody that's come in through the ranks, like has been a teacher, or has done some other things that have experienced in the district, that they've been in the trenches, they've done all the things that we're doing, they understand. So I don't want them to be separated from how we feel and how we look at things and how they look at things.
So someone who has a well-rounded experiential background.
Yes, and I mean, I think a PhD is important, but I also think that the experience that they've had throughout all this time can also help.
Okay.
It could be equivalent to that as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd just go along with the proven track record to find somebody who's been there, done that. We don't want to train them here. They should come in with ideas that they've applied before, that have worked before, that we can check and do a little research and find that they have been successful before.
Okay.
I think the person should definitely be passionate, have some sort of vision, sort of like an architect of direction. As we were talking about the future growth of Bastrop, they should have some sort of plan. And be prepared for that. I don't necessarily believe that a PhD is necessary. I'm more of a proven track record or experience, or also, if somebody comes in and just, has that passion. Everybody needs to get their start somewhere. I, had my first start somewhere, and we, should be open-minded to that as well, because somebody could come in and just knock your socks off and be the greatest thing. I'm not sure.
Okay. I'm going to get you to hold that because I have one more question. This is our last question. Or you want to start it? No. Okay. All right. Okay. So I want each of you to tell me what you believe the priority should be for the superintendent of Bastrop when they come in the first 100 days. When they hit the ground running, boots on the ground, when they show up, what do they need to focus on the first 100 days?
Meeting everyone. Okay. Introducing themselves and establishing those relationships with the community, the teachers, the kids.
Perfect. Establishing relationships.
Just learning all the systems, going through and really understanding who we are, what we are. I think super important is to get out in the community and understand this community. We are a unique community here, to get out there and meet people, find out who we are, and how the systems have worked in the past, and then they can leverage off of that.
Okay.
See what needs to be done for each campus, what their needs are, what resources that they need, how that superintendent can help each campus as a whole.
So somebody who'll come in and assess the situation first.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Assess the situation and figure out what's going on, and then put a plan in place.
Okay.
Yeah, and just be listening to a lot of different groups and meeting with a lot of.
Okay, so somebody who'll come in and listen before they just begin acting.
Right.
Perfect.
And have some leadership ability.
Okay.
That being said, I believe in the assessing, and then also getting out in the community. We don't have to remind them that we've had several bonds that didn't pass, and so I think there needs to be some community involvement.
Some visibility in the community.
Yes.
Okay.
I will just, reiterate, excuse me. My point from earlier, I attended the meeting. I'm both a parent in this community, but I'm also an employee of the district. When I think about the timing of when the superintendent will come in, we are getting ready near to launch school. And I go back to the point that every classroom needs to have a teacher ready to go to meet kids on August the 15th.
Okay, great.
I tend to agree. I think the first thing they need to do is go into the classrooms and talk to the teachers.
So somebody who will listen to the staff, the teachers, the boots on the ground people.
I just agree with everything that's been said. The assessing, somebody that will come in and assess what the issues that we have at hand right now, and making those community, going out and getting involved with our community.
Okay.
I would have to concur. Basically, evaluating the school district from the ground up instead of coming in from the top level and pushing down. I think that that's extremely important.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. With that said, I want to share a couple of things with you. The way this will work is, of course, we can't share with you who they're interviewing or who's applied, but you will have some input into that position, because once the board decides the individual that they're going to hire, they have to post that individual's name for 21 days prior to hiring that individual. So during that 21 days, while they're negotiating the contract, that will be, once they name the lone finalist, that is the community's vetting period, and they cannot hire the superintendent until that name has been legally out there for 21 days. And it's out there by the board naming that individual, the lone finalist. I will say also that the board is interested in if you know someone that you believe to be a good candidate for this position. Obviously, the board can't go out and say, hey, would you come be our superintendent? They can't recruit that way. What we can do, though, is if you know someone who is a quality candidate, we would ask you to supply to me the name of that individual and their contact information, where they're located, and we will then let them know that they have been nominated to apply for the position of superintendent. You know, in finding that needle in a haystack, we are interested in your opinion. If there's someone out there that you are aware of, let's say you have a cousin in another district and that superintendent does great things, if there's someone out there, if there's someone inside, if there's someone that you believe is the right fit or you would like the board to consider, we encourage you to nominate that person to apply for the position of superintendent in Bastrop ISD. Now, how many of you are aware that there is a survey online that you can fill out? Okay, keep your hands up. How many of you have taken the survey? Okay, for those of you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So your homework is, and that survey will run until 10 a.m. on March 19th. So your job is to go out and to take the survey, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 11 of you in here. There's 11 of you in here, and if each of you goes out and recruits 10 individuals to take that survey, and you don't have to recruit people at school, we're going to send out that memo, but we want you to talk to your neighbors and the folks at your church and the people you see at the grocery store or somebody that you run into in the community. We want you to encourage at least 10 people to take that survey, because the more people that take that survey, the more input the board is going to have on what that next leader looks like. I will tell you, you can reassure those individuals that the surveys are not IP, how do I say that?
They're not IP address.
They're not IP address tracked, meaning we don't care who takes it, we just want your input. So we're not tracking who took it or what computer you took it from. We just want to know that you took the survey. So number one, thank you for taking it. I want you all to go home and take it, and I want you all to get 10 more people, and that's community, staff, students, parents, kiddos, anybody that can do that. We would encourage you. Now you came to our meeting earlier, so you got to get another 10 people. Okay, so we now you got to get 20 to take it. So and it is both in English and Spanish, so it's a bilingual survey. So encourage everyone to please take that survey. Again, I want to tell you, where is that survey? It is located.
So it's on the district website. Is the main location. So you can that very first thing that comes up, that picture, you can click there. Down in a little further down the page in the district newsroom is where you can also click there. We've been putting it out on last week on social media, and another reminder out today on social media.
And if you have any trouble finding it or locating it, Dr. Lee will be more than happy to assist you when you're in front of your computer. So there you go. Yes?
So, Christine, would you mind sending it out to get faster? And I'm sorry I got it.
That's okay. You can stay for the next meeting.
I think that's
okay.
I have.
Great. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Is that website or advertising?
It's already been in the newspaper. It's been on our social media.
It'll come out this Thursday in the actual printed paper.
Oh, okay.
They were going to share it on their social media between now and then. I also sent it out to the Chamber of Commerce and to all of my key networks. So that's some people at the city, some people at the county, the BEDC. So those people know about it as well. And then on our social media and on our district website. We've also sent it out to our staff directly to get them involved. And then probably we'll send it out.
will say this, though.
We can send it out by email through the Blackboard system, yeah, to our parents.
And if you're a classroom teacher and you've got your parents' emails, it's okay for you to say, the district's conducting a survey on the profile of the next superintendent. I would encourage your participation as a key stakeholder. So if you're a classroom teacher, we encourage you to encourage not only your parents, but if you teach kids who are old enough for them to take the survey as well. I want to say this on behalf of the Board of Trustees. We thank you for your participation. Your voice counts. Your opinion matters, and what you said tonight will be delivered to the Board of Trustees. They count on you and are interested in what you're saying as they develop this profile for the next superintendent. So I know it's a humid, muggy Monday afternoon, but we thank you for taking the time to come. Although we can't pay you, Dr. Lee has provided some excellent cookies over here, and we've generously got a bottle of water for you to drink on the way home, since you're probably late into cooking dinner, but I want to honor your time. And so with that, you are dismissed, and I thank you so much for your participation.
Thank you.